Hi everyone, this is Serene, and in today's episode, I invited my dearest friend Andrea Wong, and we met at a conference. We're both speaker, and later I find out she has this amazing transitions throughout her career. But first, I would love to have Andrea introduce herself to everyone.
Thanks, Serene. Let's see. My background is, as Serene kind of mentioned, kind of varied. I was in journalism in Shanghai in China, started in lifestyle journalism. Then I switched to corporate PR, helping multinationals with their China market, greater China strategy. And then I switched to nonprofit strategy. I helped a global e-learning nonprofit initiate their China work.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went freelance for a while and traveled and did freelance content strategy. That was very fun.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled a lot. And then I switched to user experience research, which I currently do right now at Google.
Mm-hmm. It's just so amazing and fascinating, but I want to start it at the beginning. Like, what is your major and how did you choose your major?
Okay, so my major is psychology and creative writing minor. Creative writing, as in, could be anything from nonfiction to fiction. I mostly focus on fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I chose my major, to be honest, I wanted to be an anthropology major. Then I realized I didn't at that point in time. I think they do now. My college, Skidmore College, didn't understand international Balkan diploma, so I didn't accept my anthropology credits. And I thought I didn't do 2 years of college level work to not have a big knowledge. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked at the English major, and then I thought it was too ethnocentric, to be honest, because I came from a very international background, and their
Mm-hmm.
syllabus was quite ethnocentric. So I didn't think that was for me either. And then I thought, you know what? I really love reading about psychology in general. I've done a college level course on it before when I was in high school for summer school. So I thought, this is great. They also don't have a lot of requirements. So it means I can be in college and take classes in government and art and
Mm-hmm.
sociology and just jump around and do lots of different things because that's what's most interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. It's really fascinating that your background was in psychology, but and also minor in creative writing. But all your career, like all your jobs, are not. I would say not directly related to psychology, right? So, what was your first job, and how did you start?
My first job was as a junior editor at the lifestyle magazine in Shanghai. And I applied because I was sitting in a coffee shop and I noticed there's a group of people next to me at a different table running a book club.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shamelessly dropping because I'm a big book lover and reader. And the person at the end of the book club mentioned, "Oh, my magazine is hiring for editors." So I walked over and introduced myself and asked for the application process and applied directly and got it.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So after that, what was your next job? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I should be really point out I've always quit my job without another one. I don't recommend that. I did it because it was a very particular point in time. I didn't have to worry about housing, luckily, and also I had savings, and also at the point in time, the job market in Shanghai was really booming.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not worried about job prospects. My next job was 3 months afterwards, and I'm joining Hill and Knowlton Strategies. It's a DPP, very well-known global PR agency. So I applied for them. My friend, his company employed Hill and Knowlton Strategies as their PR agency.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought, oh, I know people there. What you do, it's a very common transition from journalism to PR. Maybe I should just throw your resume over. And I thought, yeah, great. Here's my resume. Didn't think any of it, got an interview, went in, negotiated, and got the job. And I was actually too super surprised because I didn't apply for any other jobs at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time.
I like how like talented people always say, "Oh, I didn't know, I just try and then I got it." Like super easy. No big deal, but I got it. Okay, I love
I
that.
wouldn't say that. I think a big part of it is using your network and
Mhm.
being really open and being very clear. Like, I'm looking for a job. Anybody has an opening. This is what I do. I think it's really important throughout your career to be telling everybody and activating weak ties, because that's what research shows. Research shows that usually your weak ties that get you your next job.
Mhm. So when I first met you, I remember you were working at Google as a UX researcher, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people they don't even know the position existed. Like, what do you do as a UX researcher?
I'm really not surprised because I didn't know the job even existed until I met someone who was doing this. And I
Hmm.
thought, oh my God, your job is so cool. I want to do your job. And that's how I found out about it. I never heard of it before.
Hmm.
UX research is really learning what the users of a system or a product or a service, what they want or need, how they behave, what are their mental models, their frustrations, their pain points, and then try to understand and build insights so that you can bring it back to your team, whether it's a product or a service or a system, to make sure they're designing products and services for them, to make sure they're user friendly. So it could be anything from, in practicality, like practical terms, it would mean you would be interviewing people, you could be running focus groups, you could be creating concepts and prototypes. You could be doing ethnography, like you could be doing field work in different countries and following people around their daily life to see how they behave and interviewing them throughout the fact and doing surveys remotely. It's a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, it's about studying human behavior and human thought, and it's fascinating because it's people. So I think that's where it really ties into psychology.
Yes, I would agree that. So right now you work at Google News. So what
Mhm.
is like the job in Google News?
So I lead product inclusion for Google News. What that means is there's been a spate of these kind of roles happening and opening up more and more across tech, but even across different industries for UX researchers focus on thinking about equity. Are we building products that are inclusive of the world at large? Like when we're building products for everyone at Google, right? Like,
Mhm.
we need to make sure that we are not unintentionally biasing the products that we build. So how do we make sure that we are building inclusively and we're building for everyone? When we say everyone, this means mostly, communities who are underserved, like people with disabilities, people from, certain ethnic group, people who are low income, people who are of a different gender. So it's really thinking quite broadly about how do we make sure we are inclusive and not unintentionally, amplifying any biases that does exist in our society today.
Oh, I really love that. Actually, I really want to interview Andrea because I think her vision at in her career is really, really inspiring, right? Not only she want to focus on diversity and inclusion, and she's actually doing something so meaningful and so influential. So for anyone who want to, okay, one more question. So how do you feel about working at Google?
Okay, so I actually really love it, or I wouldn't be here. I
Mm-hmm.
think I told you before, I switched jobs a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
really noticed that I would switch every 2 years, and I would just flat out quit
Mm-hmm.
because as someone with ADHD, which was diagnosed only later in life, I realized that I'm the type of person who can't do work unless I really care about it. So after 2 years, usually the time I go like, you know what, I really don't feel personally invested in this work, and I want to care about the mission of what I do, and so
Mm-hmm.
I don't. So I'll just quit it. So I've been at Google for over 6 years now. I think that says a lot. I am still in the same industry. I'm still in the same role. I'm still at the same company. I really like working at Google because it gives me a lot of opportunities to do work at scale. And that's my personal work mission. I think it's worth, thinking through and writing down and maybe even changing. But for me, I have a very clear one, which is I want to do work that's doing equity at scale. And there's no larger scale, really, in many ways, than Google. And I really love the culture of super smart people. I learn from my colleagues all the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy working for a global company as I'm someone who is, from multiple cultures. So the work is interesting, it's challenging, it's tricky, their scale, great people. I won't lie, the free food is nice too. So, it's I really enjoy what I do and where I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm. Do you still remember like the whole like recruiting process? Like, is it super complicated?
It's extensive. Mine is one way of getting in. So I started actually as a contractor. Um, and it was supposedly to be quite a low level role. I was still studying for my master's at time, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do my master's and work at the same time. And somebody told me there was this, and they said low level role. They're like, oh, I didn't even ask you to apply because it seems like it's too low level for you. It's transcribing, interview videos. And I thought, I'm starting from the bottom of a new industry. I should not be too prideful about where I am. I should just take anything. thing. So then I said,
Love
yeah, I'm
that.
going to apply and do it. Right. So then I did, thinking it was a very low level role, but at least I learned something and I made
Mhm.
contacts, so on and so forth. I went in, it turns out the role was not bad at all, and actually was doing full on UX research work.
Oh.
So it was great. So after 8 months of being what we call TVC, temp vendor contractor, I applied to switch full time for a role as a researcher focused on accessibility, people with disabilities. And I got it, and I started very quickly a few weeks later. But I have to tell you, that is not normal in the sense that I hear from most people, even if they go from TVC and they convert to full time, which is quite a common path, it doesn't usually happen that quickly. It was just very
Mhm.
lucky timing for me. But usually the recruiting process, it can take months
Mhm.
because
Yeah, it
there's
also
whole
says a lot about Andrea, even though she's like trying to be modest. Oh, I got lucky, but everybody
no,
knows.
no, I no, I mean, I think a lot of work, a lot of these things is also, you have to work hard, obviously, but you also, and you have to be open to opportunity, but you also, there's a sheer amount of luck involved. Like just, there's a fair amount of luck. And, there was a whole interview process I went through too, to go full time. You have to then create a presentation about your work and take some case studies you've done in research and
Mhm.
present it for 45 minutes in front of 5 different people, and they ask you questions and grill you through it. And then afterwards, 4 people leave the room, one person stays, and you have a one-on-one interview for 45 minutes. And then they
Mhm.
leave, and then another person comes in, and you do that from 9:30 a.m. to like 4 p.m. or something like that.
Wow.
Actually, I
Okay.
really like it.
Well,
I
I
really
heard
like
it's
that.
a lot, and well, it is. So, last
Yeah.
question for anyone who want to enter your industry, do you have any suggestions? Like, where should they start? What kind of background, like major, would help?
The really great thing about research is that I've seen in my master's program, I've seen lots of different people come from very, very different backgrounds. They come from
Hmm.
sales, they've come from really anything. There's a lot of resources out there. If you look up and just Google UX research, there's a lot of like tutorial videos and just like sites that really dive into the craft of research, UX research, and what it means. That tells you what it's like in your day to day to see if you actually think it's a right role for you. And
Hmm.
if you do, there's different kinds of like boot camps, like General Assembly and things. To be fair, okay, I'm gonna be really honest with you here. I've seen there's a lot of discussion on like internal research threads. It's a global research thread where people talk about what is useful and which boot camps are useful. General Assembly is not the end all be all. You can't go into a boot camp and expect to get a job. Please, I'm just tell you
Hmm.
that right now. But there are some research focused one that does help you with that.
Hmm.
Um, but there's a lot of resources online. You can look it up, and you can go the master's route if you want, which is what I did. But there's other people who just like work their way in it, or they go to a research focus um, kind of camp or consultant, or you can actually just start, maybe if you're already in a company and you can't just quit and do anything, which is completely normal. You can start asking for projects that are research related, start doing smaller things, using the sources online to help you figure out how to run them, and just start seeing if that's a good fit, and then building up a portfolio of your own. At the end of the day, it's not really about your credentials, it's about whether you've done the work. Whether you can show you've done research work and you can show that you've influenced product, you're already on their way.
Yeah, the suggestion you provided are really, really practical. It's very practical, and I love that Andrea always bring me like a lot of positive energy. I love that. Thank you so much for being on our episode. And in the future, if anybody have more questions about working at Google or UX research, which is a very interesting industry. Just like she said, even though you have a very different background, if you're interested in doing such a research, there's still a way for you to get into that industry. So that is very, very unique. I really love that. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.